At his headquarters at Christiansburg Castle, a 17th century slaving fort from where British governors had ruled the crown colony of
Citizens of the new state of Ghana gather for the celebration marking their day of freedom from colonialism. What was once the Gold Coast, a British colony, now becomes an independent commonwealth. Vice President and Mrs. Nixon represent the United States at the three-day festivities. Native dances and games mark an event of historic importance since Ghana becomes the first Negro colony in Africa to gain its freedom. Premier Kwame Nkrumah chats with Representative Adam Clayton Powell of the U.S. as Ghana's new army passes in review before the American-educated Premier and Deputy Secretary Ralph Bunche of the United Nations. Another feature of the occasion is a beauty contest in which the fairest of the land compete. And here is Miss Ghana herself, first queen of a brand new republic.
Long before the likes of Thomas Sankara, Robert Mugabe, and Nelson Mandela would burst onto the international scene as the faces of anti-imperialism in Africa, one man stood head and shoulders above his peers as the leading political voice and the very embodiment of Africa's struggle against colonialism. Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, took the world by storm as he led his nation to become the first black African nation to gain independence from the European powers. But just as Nkrumah's revolutionary leadership in Ghana would trigger a wave of independence movements all across sub-Saharan Africa, his gradual descent into authoritarianism and his sudden overthrow would also become a familiar story across many of Africa's newly independent states. This is the story of how Dr. Kwame Nkrumah went from being Ghana's messiah and faultless hero to a political pariah whose ultimate demise would lead to wild celebrations on the streets by the very same people that had once loved and adored him. At his headquarters at Christiansburg Castle, a 17th century slaving fort from where British governors had ruled the crown colony of the Gold Coast for over 50 years, Sir Charles Arden Clarke woke up on the morning of the 9th of February 1951, facing the most difficult decision of his career. His problems centered around a 41-year-old prisoner who had been held at James Fort in Accra on a 3-year sentence for subversionary activities. In the eyes of the colonial authorities, this prisoner was a dangerous troublemaker who, even while in chains, was a serious threat to the stability of the colony. According to official reports, the man Kwame Nkrumah was a thoroughgoing communist, and in unofficial communications was even described by Governor Arden Clarke as the local Hitler. You see, prior to Nkrumah's arrest, the British officials had drawn up a carefully constructed plan for the colony's slow and steady transition into full independence. Under this plan, the Gold Coast was to have what the British called a semi-responsible government, and for the first time in the country's history, there would be a general election to elect a new National Assembly and Executive Council composed of mainly African representatives. And in putting together this plan, the British officials had collaborated with an elite group of Gold Coast lawyers, businessmen, and academics who had long been calling for the reforms. Referred to by the British as men of property and standing, this group of Gold Coast elites had formed the nation's first major political party in 1947, known as the United Gold Coast Convention, and their campaign slogan was self-government in the shortest possible time. Their leader, Dr. Joseph Boachier Danquah, was highly respected by the British and many within the emerging Gold Coast political elite. A bona fide intellectual, J.B. Danquah had studied law in the UK and was a qualified barrister called to the prestigious London Inner Temple. Spearheading the earliest push for Ghana's independence, Danquah personally prepared the first draft of his nation's new constitution and also suggested that the new nation be called Ghana, in honor of the 13th century Empire of Ghana, located in modern-day Mali. Looking to spread their message to the masses and build popular support for their push for independence, Danquah and his UGCC colleagues decided that they needed to hire a full-time organizer to help spread their message and galvanize the public. It was here that an unknown activist named Kwame Nkrumah was recommended to them. Nkrumah at the time had been out of the country for 12 years, pursuing his studies in the US and England, and although he was neither rich nor well-connected, he was politically ambitious, highly motivated, and hungry for change. While in the US, he had earned degrees in economics, sociology, and philosophy, and although he had moved to London in pursuit of a law degree, he got completely distracted by activism as he befriended a number of prominent British communists with whom he regularly participated in anti-colonial protests. But while his activism was food for the soul, it wasn't putting food on the table. The young Nkrumah often found himself short of funds and was in desperate need for a stable source of income. And so when offered a job by Dankwa's United Gold Coast Convention, he grabbed the opportunity with both hands and moved back to the Gold Coast. Nkrumah, Dankwa, and the other founding members of the UGCC, Ebenezer Akwaje, Edward Akufo-Addo, Emmanuel Obedsibi-Lamte, and William Oforiatta, would all be collectively known in Ghanaian political folklore as the Big Six. Within less than 2 years, Nkrumah had fallen out with the other members of the Big Six. While Dankwa and co were happy to cooperate with the colonial government's proposal for a slow and steady transition of power, Nkrumah began calling for independence immediately. Nkrumah subsequently broke away from the UGCC and started his own party, known as the Convention People's Party. Unlike the prim, proper, and gentlemanly UGCC, which was well supported by the colony's economic and cultural elites, Nkrumah's CPP was a radical political machine that focused on stirring up the emotions of the masses with revolutionary songs, catchy slogans, and provocative posters. The CPP also set up media outlets which would work day and night to raise anti-colonial sentiments in the public by vilifying the colonial authorities and labeling the UGCC as colonial collaborators. In opposition to the UGCC slogan of self-government in the shortest possible time, Nkrumah's CPP would call for self-government now and would declare that the draft constitution prepared by J.B. Dankwa was bogus and fraudulent. Traveling all around the country and delivering fiery speeches, Nkrumah gained a massive following by promising civil servants, office clerks, petty traders, construction workers, and primary school teachers that all of their grievances and hardships would disappear once colonial rule had been brought to an end. Many of his supporters would grow to see him as a literal messiah, sent from the heavens with the sole purpose of freeing them from the shackles of colonial oppression and ushering in a bright new dawn of peace and prosperity for all. Embracing the halo that had been placed on his head by the masses, Nkrumah would famously encourage his supporters to seek first the political kingdom, and all else would follow. And so even when the colonial government began readying the colony for its first elections in 1951, Nkrumah maintained that the British plan for a slow and steady transition to independence was nothing more than a massive scam. Taking matters into their own hands, Nkrumah and his party members mobilized a mass disturbance with strikes, boycotts, and mass demonstrations, which were intended to force the British to agree to immediate self-government. Following the subsequent outbreak of civil unrest, the Governor Charles Arden Clark declared a state of emergency and ordered the arrest of Nkrumah and his associates. Nkrumah was subsequently convicted on 3 charges of incitement and sedition and sentenced to 3 consecutive prison terms of 1 year each. But far from stopping the CPP, Nkrumah's arrest would energize his base even more, as his status as a true revolutionary had now been confirmed by the suffering he was enduring for his beliefs. As the general election scheduled for February 1951 drew nearer, early indications suggested that the CPP would gain a majority of the seats. And while in his prison cell, Nkrumah discovered a legal loophole that allowed any prisoner sentenced to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 1 year to contest for elections. As his 3-year sentence was actually composed of 3 separate terms of 1 year each, Nkrumah announced that he would be running for office from his prison cell. News of Nkrumah's participation in the elections would trigger a great wave of enthusiasm, which would see Nkrumah's supporters come out to vote for the CPP en masse. As expected, Nkrumah's CPP won the election in a landslide victory, leaving the colonial governor Arden Clark with a serious dilemma on the morning of the 9th of February, 1951. although Nkrumah still had 3 years of unspent prison time on his sentence, the new reality was that he had just been elected to high office in a landslide victory by his own people. After weighing the pros and cons, the choice became crystal clear. Without Nkrumah's release, there would likely have been a mass uprising which the colonial authorities certainly could not afford to have to deal with. And so after 14 months in prison, Kwame Nkrumah was released on the 12th of February 1951 to a massive reception from his supporters. Within the space of 2 days, Nkrumah had gone from convict to prime minister, a development that will send shockwaves all around colonial Africa. You see, the Gold Coast had for many years been seen as Britain's most precious possession in Africa. Its immense natural wealth and human capital was virtually unrivaled in sub-Saharan Africa. As the world's leading producer of cocoa for over 40 years, the Gold Coast had a large and prosperous farming community. Its education system was also the most advanced in colonial Africa, and it boasted of the largest proportion of educated and skilled workers in any African colony. Ethnically, the country was also unusually homogeneous and free from ethnic and religious tensions, with over half of the population being of Akan origin, the vast majority of which were Christian converts. The fact that the British were now showing signs of letting go of this most prized possession drew the attention of anti-colonial activists from all around the world as the first major sign of the end of colonialism in Africa. With his new position, Nkrumah immediately got to work by pushing a motion in the colony's new parliament for full self-government without delay, and although the British government had strong objections to the pace of change, it eventually agreed to Nkrumah's demands and agreed to the creation of a new constitution providing for full internal self-government under the control of an all-African cabinet. With this historic victory, Nkrumah had etched his name into the history books and would ascend to demigod status within his party and the country at large. Party members would begin comparing him to the biblical Moses, who had been sent to lead his people towards the promised land of independence. And local newspapers would bestow on him grandiose titles like Man of Destiny, Star of Africa, the Iron Boy, the Great Leader of Street Boys, and the Deliverer of Ghana. His name would even be inserted into the lyrics of Methodist hymns, and special prayers would be written for him. From morning till night, his home was constantly visited by people seeking help on anything from marital disputes to financial assistance, sickness, and even infertility. But no matter how busy he was, he always tried to find time for them, and his entire life would be devoted to his work and his politics. A pure introvert who neither smoked nor drank, his only real indulgence would be his love for classical and high-life music. After a few more rocky years of negotiations, Nkrumah's CPP officially won independence from Great Britain, and thus the nation of Ghana was born on the 6th of March, 1957. Ghana's independence celebrations would be the most globally acclaimed African event of its time, as delegates from 56 countries arrived on African soil to share in Ghana's joy. And there was certainly a lot to celebrate. As of independence, Nkrumah's Ghana was one of the richest tropical countries in the world, with an efficient civil service, an impartial judiciary, and a growing middle class. Its parliament was filled with arguably the most competent politicians in Africa, and although the Prime Minister himself had only 6 years' experience in government, he was highly respected for his vision and had the backing of his entire country. As the #1 producer of cocoa in the world, Ghana had huge foreign currency reserves which it had built during the 1950s cocoa boom, and also had large reserves of gold, timber, and bauxite. Nkrumah's vision, however, would be much larger than just the liberation of his beloved Ghana. His life's mission was to oversee the creation of a borderless African superstate, in which all the French, British, Spanish, and Portuguese colonies would break free from colonial control and unite under a single Pan-African government. And despite the vast religious, cultural, and ethnic differences of the various nations of Africa, Nkrumah did not see his Pan-African goals as some distant objective to be gradually achieved over the course of several generations. Instead, he was fully convinced that with the right level of political will and dedication, his grand vision could be achieved within his own lifetime. Ghana's capital, Accra, was to become a center of African liberation from which nationalist leaders from all across colonial Africa could come to draw support in their various independence struggles. In his Independence Day address, Nkrumah would proclaim in front of large crowds that Ghana's independence was meaningless if it wasn't linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. And in 1958, he called a meeting of some 300 representatives from all across Africa for the All-African People's Conference. Some of a few big names in attendance were Tanzania's Julius Nyerere, Zimbabwe's Joshua Nkomo, Zambia's Kenneth Kaunda, Hastings Banda of Malawi, and Patrice Lumumba of Congo.
And this is where we break on this. Greetings, things and times we deal with you. We'll go straight into school. Yes, this is where we break until tomorrow, God willing. But I want people to understand that there are some people here in England, young Ghanaians, that makes the African Caribbean and the Pan-African members to understand or to say to us that it was Muslims who disturbed the Kwame Nkrumah presidency and the official independence. And it's a lie. It has been a lie. It is a lie, and it will remain a lie. It had nothing to do with religious sectarianism. And it had nothing to do with Muslims plotting and all these things. It's Britain and some weak-minded Africans who accept the division, divide and rule tactics of England. See? And when you hear the in of what I'm trying to educate people's mind in, them themselves would dispose of. Because crime don't pay. And especially when you sell out yourselves, ourselves, any human being, it doesn't pay. And all those who sided with England to rid of the administration that brought independence to Ghana, they were disposed of, and not by ourselves, because those who set them weren't so confident that at some point they will reveal what they did and seek apology from their nation of their involvement. So what them did was dispose of them. Yes. So that's why we say you have to watch the pessimists and the Rufuses. You see? Yes, you have to know these things. And that's why we haven't got a united Africa. And I'm saying it's only because the British and the Americans, I mean they're British, they got to fully understand or overstand what his aim and objectives were. They didn't like the speed, but the proficiency, and to have the intelligence, the capability to run all the different sectors that they impose. You understand? From the judiciary sectors all the way through. Every office in political governance administration, that administration of Kwame Nkrumah was able to meet. We have to look at their education. We have to look and understand how they incorporate the knowledge and then bring it together. Because you had to prove to Britain, France, or whoever that you're capable. And if they've deemed that you are not, them not give you independence. And the independence that Ghana got was not with strings attached to it. That you can have independence, but you only have 3/4. And anything you want to do, you have to run it by us, and we will analyze it. You never go for that. Never go for that. So you have to give that administration a lot of understanding and credit and look at them very well and then ask ourselves, how did they do that? The amount of people that were involved, and they did not have the education, but they went outside of Africa and sought education. Yes. And then know that this was their aim and objectives. And they put all of that education, that ability that England was looking for and wanted, put it all into place. And then develop the infrastructure of their country and all the offices likewise. See? They even took the army and transformed it. But England wouldn't allow full transformation. As in, they were the ones who gave the orders. Because they already took the police. And the British consulate and governors were very upset about that. Yeah. They wanted them to report to them what they were thinking, what their intentions are, and how they intend to implement these things. And then they would make a decision, should you go ahead or should you not? And Nkrumah wasn't having that. He did not want to be treated like a juvenile delinquent. Did not want to be treated like a primary school child. No. But the reason they could have done that and take that stance is because they went and learned. See? And learned. Yes, they applied what the man was doing, what they want, but they needed those offices. Then England didn't know what direction they were going. They kept anticipating, surmising, and that's what's killing us up to today. So when them look across themselves, them say, wow, there's an independent guy place called Cuba. We don't want another of that. And them use those things to say, we can't let these Africans have an independent mind. So those who they couldn't transform mentally, intellectually, they just dispose of. So here we go again. We're going to make you know something. I want to play a little snippet before we play it fully to show you how we sell ourselves out, and then we can still make joke of it. And that is in their book. Now, those people who keep trying to say to our people over here in England particularly that Muslims help dismantle the administration and everything, you're a damn liar. You all are liars and you want to know it. Instead of our people who are listening to you and broadcast your stuff on their platforms, on their radio stations, and now on the internet stations as well, because they're broadcasting on the internet as well, say to you, why have you not sought reparation and repatriation for us? And why have you has taken so many years, decades, to make us know that you are sold? As in Ghana, you sold a lot of us in the diaspora into slavery. And this is before Nkrumah. So you got to get your things right. You cannot turn around and say it was the Ashanti. You can't turn around and say it was Muslims. You see? And you have too much conversations, right, to make about Islam because you're getting attention. And that's where you're evil. You need to change. And you need to give us an apology. Because we know who you are, Kwame. You need to give us an apology. And us as Africans and us as African Caribbean, because you are lying. And well, you know it. You're looking popularity. You've got some popularity because you get attention. See? So still you just use what your grandparents have told you or seek their knowledge or information from them and pass it on to us. You pass on European propaganda to get popular on the internet media platforms and then con us who want correct information pertaining to Africa. Because that's what we want. If we knew, we wouldn't have been listening to you. We would have corrected you a long time and stop you right there before you switch gear. Yes, man, I'll take the keys right out. You understand? Not even get in the car, sit down next to you. Because that means you could crash and we could be a fatality, all of us. So, I personally want you to give us an apology. And I want it national oriented. May I tell you? My name is Akwesi. See? Akwesi Kwame. You understand? And I went to college with a lot of Ghanaians. See? And that's how come I have this name. Yes. And this is back in the 70s. Make you to understand. To recognize. So, talk about Rollins if you can. But apologize to us about us as Muslims and us as African Caribbean, because you've been leading us down the wrong path, right? Fueling our head with all this propaganda about Muslims and this and that and the other. And we're not doing nothing. Islam never do nothing to Ghana. And any of the citizens. It's pure Christian head that's done that. The lust for money, lust for position that was told to them by the British. We will do this for you if you do that for you and all of them things. And the Americans come and do about the same thing. Yeah? Who built Aqua? Who? Which tribes, if you want to deal with tribe? Tell the people them the truth, man. Yeah? Which set of people built Aqua? You know what I mean? Not Kamazi, you know. I say Aqua. Yeah. So now we go somewhere else now where there's a whole heap of bad people them. Miserable people them, disgruntled people them. People them that's supposed to love themselves, you know, and finish up selling off them brothers and all of these things. You understand? So then when Melech El-Shabazz came, then you see, we come all of that way, you know, to help, you know, transform ourselves. See? Oh, yes. And that was a Muslim. Has nothing to do with no Elijah Muhammad. That was a Muslim. See? Amawali. You see? He was Admawali. It was Al-Haji Melech El-Shabazz when he went into Africa and meet all of these people to help transform their mindset. See? And seek support from them and then also offer them support, intellectual support, spiritual support. You understand? and support of being truthful and outrightful people. And fear not death, because all of us is going to experience death. We are run from it for. You try run, you can't run. What we don't want is brutal death. You understand? And that's not death, that's murder. You understand? So when there's one and two or three together, God is in the midst. And if we believe that, right, surely believe that, why would we fear death? Shouldn't fear it. You have a purpose, you have a cause. And if you feel so that it is about the people and it's an outright cause, the Almighty be with us. And if He take one of us down, not the Almighty, the bad man them and the criminals them and everything, they can't take all of us down. You see? They cannot. They cannot. So you not preach that to the people, you not tell that to the people. And first of all, you should have tell the people then what you're doing here. Why are you here? You're here as a propaganda machine for something that fell. And we don't want to know about failure. We want to know about prosperity. We want to know about action. So why is your ear getting our tax dollars, our tax pounds, and good abort and everything? Speak the truth. Because the only reason you have all of these, the British luxuries, because of us. And you're getting education, free of charge. Make use of it. And then come here and go to America and other places and get the education to go back home and release them, the people, them, including your parents, from the colonial tyranny. You have come to enrich yourself and then to hoodwink us at the same time. So you're poison dart. Kwame, you are poison dart. You understand? Release yourself, man, and apologize to us. So choose a station, you know. Choose a station. And I prefer that you choose a station like SLR. You see? Yeah, choose SLR or Supreme. You understand? Supreme or SLR. And apologize to the African Caribbean people them across the United Kingdom for the nonsense you've been speaking for these years. Come listen now again.
On 30 June 1960, as he sat listening to King Baldwin of Belgium deliver his address to the assembled dignitaries. On 30 June 1960, as he sat listening to King Baldwin of Belgium deliver his address to the assembled dignitaries in Leopoldville on the Congo's Independence Day, the new Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba, became increasingly agitated, scribbling notes furiously. The King's speech was full of patronizing remarks. Without showing any form of remorse, King Baldwin praised Belgium's colonial record, singling out the contribution made by his great-uncle Leopold II. In his speech, the king unashamedly declared, "The independence of the Congo is the crowning of the work conceived by the genius of King Leopold II, undertaken by him with firm courage, and continued by Belgium with perseverance." Having been excluded from the official program, Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba rose to deliver a tirade against Belgium, denouncing at length the terrible suffering and exploitation that the Congolese people had experienced under Belgian colonial rule. Lumumba's speech was warmly applauded by the Congolese present, but the Belgians were outraged and King Baldwin was not amused. In delivering this speech, Patrice Lumumba merely confirmed the suspicions of the Belgian government that he was an enemy of Belgian interests in the region. Just 6 months later, Patrice Lumumba was imprisoned and tragically murdered aged only 35. This is the story of Patrice Lumumba, an African hero and Congo's first prime minister whose reputation inspired hope for independence throughout Africa in the 20th century. A tall, thin man with lots of charisma and great oratory powers.
See, these are the people them that you should be encouraging and motivating people to be like these people. See? But you come with your sectarian nonsense. And then a lot of our people is in it. See? And that's why I come, you know. I come and do my something. And I don't stop letting people know, say that my fate, my life, my death is Al-Islam. So anybody who have their prejudice and whatever, them know it already. But if that's going to blind them, who's the fool? Not me. You understand? Because the oxygen that I breathe, they breathe. The food that me eat, them eat. What I discharge, them discharge. So there's nothing so specially unique about all of us, you know. You understand? It's about how we use our intelligence, our skills, our understanding. See? And then how we appreciate life. That's it. That's the uniqueness. Anything else is dollars and cents and pounds. See? Because some people believe that the money is something if they have a lot of luxuries. You understand? So some people just go out there, the main priority is to get rich. And then if you ask them what is rich, them start telling about jewelry, car, this, that, and the other. See? And really, they miss the key. They're lusting day after day to have money. See? And then you have to ask them now, what form of ability have you got? And now it's everything stuck in her. Because we're speaking of them using their intellectual potential. They're dealing with scamming. Not that they're scammers, you know, but them are hustle. They're not from the work-related thing and even going to stock exchange and trade. And no, they're not that. They might look some other way. But their dream, their lust, they want, their desire is money. So them just use a blinder to tell us that they want to be rich. You see? And that's how come Britain, America, and all these other governments, them grab with. Because when you find a lustful person like that, the bait is already there. You don't have to design one. They've told you. Their actions show you. You understand? And all you have to do is just give them a woman, right? And them so weak. Give them a nice cup that them have already. And them feel say that, yeah? You understand? And I don't know why black people want to think so that them should have champion. That shows how dumb as ass we are. So they want to go over there. They want a pop and them have a champagne or wine or something like this. So you've got them already, and then turn around and tell them, say, do this. And don't let nobody see you. And they do it. And then come back and everything, and then feel good. And they don't get nothing else. Them just get some food, nothing else. But they feel important because them know me. Because now them know that I'm the Governor General, or I'm this, or I'm that, and so on. And it goes on. You see? Useless people. We have a lot of them. And the ones them down that have some integrity, have some intellectual ability, you give them a space, a building, hey, and a nice chair and everything that you call an office. Now them feel like they are Dan of Dans. You see? Oh, yeah, man. Give them closed circuit TV and all sort of thing like that. Oh, gosh, man. Dangerous person that now, you know. Yeah. Give him a chauffeur. Oh, gosh, man. I tell the chauffeur to change the car every other day. Pick him up with a different car. Oh, man, he thinks he's land. You understand? But those of us who say la ilaha illallah, no, star, we don't know. We're not going to deny the favors of Allah. You see that? We're not. Watch it, wash your hands. So we'll go back now, 30 pieces of silver, because you grew up in you tell the people you grew up in a church, so all you know is about Christianity and so forth. So all this, you understand? And if you don't know, ask Bongo Tete and them man about it, 30 pieces of silver. Ask them exactly what Prince Buster is saying. See? So now you know that me know who I'm talking about, Because years I listened to you and all these different people that give the wrong information to us about yourselves. Bad, terrible. And we don't want a friendship like that. The man, they should have tell you that long time, you know. We don't want friendship like that, star. We want authentic, truthful, outright African black people. And listen to what happened to Judas. Listen to what listen to what our brother said that happened to him, you know. Because we don't know. We weren't there. Yeah. You see? We don't pull them around here, man. We set them straight. You understand? Standards we set. You see? Okay. And the book that you have, that you know, see? Judas is a betrayer. Make people feel comfortable and everything, and then go work. It is said, carry out a mission for the opposition. Then the opposition know, two of them don't know me. See? Them said to Judas, no, time is running out. We need to do something about this man. See? So take us to him. But before them said take them to him, he went and told them, I'm in town. See? So them say, okay, them get them top man them and say, all right, take us to him, take them to him. Huh? And hear this man, you know. Him say, the person that you see me hug and kiss, this is the Bible, you know, that will indicate that that is him. Huh? Yeah. Terrible. See? Judas. So that's what them say, you know what I mean? And it's meant to be that instead of the 12, them had 12 disciples. And then all of a sudden now, them tell you about 13 because no, one has gone astray. So instead of you intelligent young men let your grandparents and your parents them know so that maths don't work. If there was 12 minus 1 leaves 11, not 13. And if there was 12, how is it that they're saying that this one that's done wrong was the 13th? Where did he come in? See? And don't bother say there was 13 and then one did, and them dispose of one because he was a betrayer, and then them finish up to be 12. See? Very contradictory. And it's not like something wrong there. You see what I mean? But that's what you work with. So let me show you what I work with. Al-Islam. And don't bother say Arabism. Because again, you don't bring history and intellectual information from the continent to us, you know. You come with European nonsense, like you try like you come here to immigration, and before you get deported, you're going with this nonsense. And you don't need to do that here, because this is not America. Ghana is still member of the Commonwealth. So all you have to do is speak the truth. Tell the people, say, watch out, you want to go to college, you want to go to university, you want to improve yourself as a human being and take advantage of the British education. And even us, we are signed for you, because they're not going to deport you. Unless you came in here with a name Buster, and not your original birth certificate name, then that means, again, you're an imposter. You have no confidence in yourself. And you don't know nothing about your country and nothing about how your country is aligned to the Commonwealth and what that means. So how the hell you going to talk about these things you've been talking about? And you try to make people believe that you do political science. No. You create political propaganda and historical non-evidence. And you need to apologize. You need to apologize. And because there's a lot of people that believe, hey, I don't know if them believe in it. Them trust in and the words that you use. Because you know what them say? Him is an African. So who better to know? And you don't give us no upliftment and living, learning, building. No, the Malis are doing better than you. A lot of our brothers and sisters who have gone over there and buy property and buy land and doing all kinds of something, and have gone through the hills and the valleys and everything, but through perseverance. And I'm making us know, listen here, don't make nobody come tell you say that, because our life, and not because it's Africa that everything's going to be like so smooth. It's the same thing we experience everywhere else. So just be tolerant and don't come with your eyes open like you look for problem. See yourself as going home, and you're going to meet your family, and you're going to get the information that you need to do whatever you want to do. If you want to buy a place, if you want to rent a place, if you want to own some land, get the right information. Go to the government. Yes, man, not a sideline person like you. You understand? Dibby people hustling. Come on. I'm here. Now look at Islam now, see? Look at Islam. See what we are dealing with. And look at what the Quran is dealing with. You understand? Stop your condemnation, man. Nonsense.
Then falls again as rain. But there was always a lingering question in my mind. How did water first form on our planet in the first place? As the years have passed, physicists have been able to answer this question. One in particular, Carl Sagan, asserted that water first arrived on our planet when stars first appeared. Stars aren't simply shiny things that twinkle in the night. Inside stars, a series of nuclear burning stages transform the star into an onion-like shell structure that produces heavier and heavier elements in its various stages. Elements like silicon, neon, calcium, copper, chromium, carbon, oxygen. The list goes on, and this causes the star to expand more and more. The last element to be produced by the star, the one that sits in the very core of the star, is iron, which makes the star resist any further compression and lose its ability to expand. The star then becomes a bloated ball of gas with a dense iron core, slightly similar to the size of planet Earth, resting at the very centre. No more energy can be produced by the iron core because iron doesn't burn. This causes the star's store of energy to become depleted, and it is this process that spells the end for the star. The end of a supermassive star results in an explosion, a supernova. After the star explodes in a supernova, it leaves behind its core as a remnant. The core of this remnant is more rigid than steel. This remnant is the densest star known to exist in the universe. It's called a neutron star or a pulsar. This pulsar is characterized by unique characteristics. First, it's very dense. How dense? Let's put it this way. A teaspoon of matter from a neutron star or pulsar weighs as much as Mount Everest. Secondly, it punches holes in stellar disks. In NASA's Chandra X observatory, scientists have observed a pulsar punching a hole in a disk of gas or stellar disk around its companion star. They published this information along with an image of the pulsar on their website on July the 23rd, 2015. In the form of stardust, supernovas scatter the elements that surround the core of the star and that are made through nuclear fusion by the star out into the cosmos. And these are the same elements that make up other stars, planets, and everything on Earth, including our bodies. In her research work published in 2014 in the Astrophysical Journal, Goranka Bil-Albegovic and her research team described exploding stars as cosmic cement mixers in order to explain the presence of building material in space. They recorded that when the very massive stars die, they explode and litter space with a variety of elements. All the ingredients of cement have been found in such stellar remnants, meaning that stardust is not just dust, it is cement-like dust, which solidifies after being mixed with water. The oxygen synthesized in stars via nuclear reactions is dispersed with the stardust through the cosmos and combines for the first time with hydrogen to form water, H2O. And here lies the answer to the question I posed at the beginning. Where does water really come from? Water was formed and emerged for the first time from between the cement-like dust and the remnant star core, which is more rigid than steel, the pulsar. Meaning that the dust grains that float through the solar system contain tiny pockets of water, and water has been found trapped inside real stardust. Scientists believe that this stardust rained down continuously on young planet Earth and brought with it the organic material needed for the eventual origins of life. The discovery of water in stardust suggests that the continuous stardust falls have acted as a continuous rainfall, which brought water to our molten planet. In the Quranic chapter called Al-Tariq, or the Pulsar, God swears by the star which punches holes that we are made from the showers of water, the water which emerged from between kinds of cement like dust and steel. The Holy Quran says, by the heaven and by the pulsar, and have you understood what the pulsar is? It is the star which punches holes. There is not a soul that does not have a guardian over it, so man must consider from what he has been created. It was created from the water ejected, that is emerging from between the steel and cement-like dust. God has all power to resurrect him. It's beyond incredible that a book from 1400 years ago would mention such topics. So when the famous physicist Carl Sagan said, "We are all made of star stuff," he wasn't speaking poetically or figuratively, he meant it literally. But before Carl Sagan and his great-great-grandfathers were even born, the Quran had already told us that showers brought the elements that make up everything on earth, including our bodies, when it says, "Have you not seen that God has sent water down from the heaven to make fruits of various colours, mountains of various colours like white, red and intense black mountains, and also to make the various colours of people, moving creatures and grazing livestock?" In 2004, NASA sent a spacecraft called Stardust on a mission to collect cosmic dust samples from a comet to be brought back to Earth for analysis. Andrew Westphal, a planetary scientist and the study lead of this mission, said, "By analysing interstellar dust, we can understand our own origins." Mr. Westphal was right. The analysis of the cosmic dust collected yielded some informative and sometimes puzzling results about the physical characteristics of stardust, other than the fact that it is similar to cement. They found that it is sticky, covered in organic matter, as stated by Dr. William Revel, the Emeritus Professor of Biochemistry at University College Cork in Ireland. It is soft, amorphous, not crystalline silicates, as stated by Dr. Franziska Kemper in 2004 in the Astrophysics Journal. And it is dark, tar-like, as stated by Drs. Franz R. Kruger and Jochen Kissel at the Max Planck Institute in Munich, Germany. It was also described as similar to cement by Goranka Bilabegovic in the Astrophysical Journal in 2014. But you know where else we can look to learn a great deal about our origins? The Quran. Not only does the Quran state that humans were originally created from dust, but it also states the physical characteristics of this dust in the following verses, and they are strikingly similar to what the scientists described later. Other than its similarity to cement, the Quran describes the dust that we are created from as sticky, soft, and dark, or tar-like. Chapter 30, verse 20. And of his signs is that he created you from dust. Chapter 37, verse 11. Indeed, we created men from sticky clay. And chapter 15, verses 26. And indeed, we created man from potter's clay of altered black, smooth mud.
Of ourselves. Who is this ourselves? We who are the Muslim, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to this earth, the human beings in this earth. Al-Quran, evidence. You understand? That is not a man. It is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You understand? So whether people them accept or try reject, where I say read the Quran. Stop listening to people them a chat this and a chat that. You understand? Anybody can say what they want to say. But when them not deal with the culture of the Quran, when them not dealing with the liberty of the Quran, when them not dealing with the way of life of the Quran, and they haven't read it, you see? Okay, right? So we are saying, because we are coming on revolution of the day, that what mankind needs to do is read. So they inform themselves. You understand? It's not about somebody at the this and somebody at the that. Nah, it's not about my calamities and this other person's calamities. Nah, it's about what Allah, God Almighty, have said. And you read that. It's not about what you think I am about and what I do and what I look like. No. You use your eyes and your sensibility and sensitivity and read what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran. And whether you deal with science or technology or whatever, these things I'm projecting is to make a person know say, that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing upon him, is not the author of the Quran. See? And him never got this over there from Kemet. He never got this over there from the Torah and that over there from the Injil, and he being smart with all these people, and then they put it all together. Nah, right? So, find people them who can recite the Bible. And we'll give you people them who can close them eyes, sit down properly, stand up, whatever. Children, all the way through, and old people that can recite the Quran, verse for verse. And you know that already, many of you out there. So listen to this track, because I just send this to Kwame. Do good.
We must tell the people, got to tell the people. We must
see what I'm saying? A bright round here, now. Round here. Hold this.
We must tell the people. Got to tell the people. We must tell the people. Got to tell the people. You got to treat every man good. You got to treat every man good. Just like a man. Everyone. You got to do each and everyone.
I am not your enemy, you know. It's just me not like where you're defending, where you're espousing, have been espousing for all these years. You see? So I am your African brother. You see? But you not teach me nothing. You're not giving me anything to learn from. You just come with a poison pin and we grew up in a despising state. We're well educated in despising state. So you should have been one of those who come and uplift us intellectually and culturally. Not come and down spun us. Come on, man. Spin and never yarn.
We must tell the people. Got to tell the people. We must tell the people. Got to tell the people. You got to treat every man good. You got to treat every man good. Just like a man. You got to do good to everyone. You got to do to each and everyone. I'm warning you. No matter what color, class, or creed. No matter what color, class, or creed. You've got to do good to everyone. You've got to try and understand your fellow man. That is a man. No matter what color, class, or creed. No matter what color, class, or creed. He may belong. He may belong. You've got to do good to everyone. You've got to do good to each and everyone. I tell you, oh, that's when life will just begin. For you and I, whether you black or you white, I say you're alright. You got to do good.
See? So we just want you to do good. Like you know you should. Listen, watch this.
Charles Darwin is, of course, best known for his theory of evolution through natural selection. When Darwin's work was first made public in 1859, it shocked Britain's religious establishment. And while today it is accepted by virtually all scientists, evolutionary theory is still rejected by many Americans, often because it conflicts with their religious beliefs about divine creation. But though we may tend to think of Darwin's theory of evolution as anti-religious, you may be surprised to learn that Darwin's theory and the Holy Quran share some commonalities. Let's start by taking a closer look at the theory. The theory has two main points. First, all life on Earth is connected and related to each other. Trace back the separate lines of descent of all organisms that ever lived, and they will converge to a single point of origin, the beginning of life. Charles Darwin was reluctant to publish his views on the origins of life. His only speculations on the subject are known from a private letter to his friend and colleague Joseph Hooker, in which he speaks of a warm little pond in which the first molecules of life could have formed. The Holy Quran, written over 1400 years ago, tells us that all life on earth is connected and related to each other when it says, "And we, God, made from water all living things." Second, this diversity of life is a product of modifications of populations by natural selection, where some traits were favoured in an environment over others. And the Holy Quran tells us that the history of creation is a history of both creation and selection when it says, "Your Lord creates whatever he wills and selects." The Holy Quran also tells us that the Prophet Adam was brought to prophecy by selection when it says, "Indeed, Allah, God, selected Adam and Noah and the family of Abraham and the family of Imran above all people." At the heart of Darwin's theory of evolution is the notion of copying and the variations it creates, meaning that it is copying results in several evolutionary successive stages. Similarly, the Holy Quran tells us that God created us in successive stages when it says, "What is the matter with you that you do not hope for honour from Allah when he created you in successive stages?" Charles Darwin believed that humans evolved in Africa and that the root of the human tree was very deeply ingrained there. And in 1962, our roots were shown to be definitively in Africa. Geneticists are able to identify certain genetic sequences or markers in each of us and cross-reference it with a number of ever-growing international databases. Where there's a match, there's likely a common ancestor, and genetically speaking, all markers point to Africa. With the mapping of the human genome in 2003, combined with thousands of people around the world submitting their DNA for testing, there's now mounting physical proof that we all started in Africa before migrating around the world. Furthermore, advanced DNA testing combined with recently unearthed discoveries are bolstering the belief that if you look back far enough, all living human beings are the descendants of a small, innovative and ambitious set of people on the African continent. And the Holy Quran confirms this when it says in a very short chapter of only 8 verses, "By the fig and the olive, by the mountain of Senyin and by the secure city Mecca, we've indeed created the human in the best directed shape. Then we returned him to the lowest of the low, except those who believed and did righteous deeds. For them there is a reward unending. So what yet causes you to deny the recompense, i.e. day of resurrection? Is not Allah the most just of judges?" Let's take a look at exactly how this short chapter about figs, olives and the mountain of Senyin explains the origins of humankind. So let's talk about figs, that sweet, mushy fruit that comes from an inwardly blossoming flower. In an article for BBC Earth, published on the 17th of January 2017, Mike Shanahan writes that fig trees have not only witnessed history, but have shaped it. Wild fig trees first grew in Africa around 80 million years ago. Humans have been eating figs throughout history. Figs not only nourish animals, but the year-round presence of ripe figs would have helped sustain our early human ancestors. High-energy figs may have helped our ancestors to develop bigger brains. There's also a theory that suggests our hands evolved as tools for assessing which figs are soft and therefore sweet and rich in energy. While the first humans benefited from fig biology, their descendants mastered it. And where exactly does the wild fig tree called Ficus vasta grow? In or near the Horn of Africa, and it's primarily endemic to Ethiopia. And now for olives, whose tree has been called the Tree of Life. In an article on the Australian Broadcasting Corporation's website on the 7th of February 2013, Dr. Guillaume Besnard of the French National Centre for Scientific Research explains that his researchers concluded that 3 main branches of wild olives split from a common ancestral tree at least 1.5 million years ago. Now on to mountains. In an article in the New York Times by Carl Zimmer on May 30th, 2013, Zimmer states that in the hearts of evolutionary biologists, mountains occupy a special place. It's not just their physical majesty, mountains also have an unmatched power to drive human evolution. Our ancestors moved to high altitudes, and there they experienced natural selection that has reworked their biology, like the adjustment of hemoglobin levels, for example. This is the most extreme example in humans that you can find, said Rasmus Nielsen, an evolutionary biologist at the University of California at Berkeley. Humans have adapted to mountainous environments, just as Charles Darwin predicted. A BBC News article in March 2015 revealed that a research team led by Professor Brian Vilmore from the University of Nevada in Las Vegas had discovered what they called the most important transition in human evolution. This is the transition from tree dweller to upright walker. This transition happened and was discovered in Ethiopia. Human evolution, also known as hominization, is the evolutionary process that led to the emergence of anatomically modern humans, beginning with the evolutionary history of primates, which appeared at least 80 million years ago, and leading to the emergence of Homo erectus, or upright man, which was the first creature to stand fully upright that appeared at least 1.5 million years ago. So what do all these findings in all these articles have to do with that short chapter of the Quran we mentioned? Simply put, the Holy Quran points to Africa and tells us that the history of the upright man's evolution started with the evolution of primates at least 80 million years ago and led to an upright man at least 1.5 million years ago. How exactly does the Holy Quran do this? By swearing by the fig, which first grew in Africa around 80 million years ago, and by the olive, which split from its common ancestral tree about 1.5 million years ago, and by the mountain of Senyin, which is found in Ethiopia and now called Choke Mountain, and finally by swearing to Mecca, the land of Islam, that God created the human in the best erected shape. The word taqweem, used in the original Arabic of the verse, means erected, which means to raise and set in an upright or vertical position. Then God says after that, we then returned the human back to the lowest of the low. And now scientists are searching for our ancestors in the Afar Desert of Ethiopia, which coincidentally happens to be the lowest point in Ethiopia, the lowest in Africa, and the lowest point on the planet. This is how a brief chapter of 8 verses summarizes millions of years of human evolution in a book revealed 1400 years ago by God himself. For how could the Prophet Muhammad have known about the link between the creation of humans in an erected shape and the millions of years of evolution that took place between the appearance of the fig and the olive? And how could he have known about the link between the creation of humans in an erected shape and an African Amharic mountain in Ethiopia? Or even about the location of the mountain of Senyin that has for years been wrongly translated as the mountain of Sinai in Egypt, and that we just recently discovered thanks to satellite mapping. In short, he could not have known. So where is this mysterious mountain that turns out to be of great significance? The mountain of Senyin is in an Amharic town which is not even known by most Ethiopians. It's now called Choke Mountain and can be found in the Ethiopian highlands, located in the Amhara National Regional State, East Gojam Zone, northwest of the town of Devre Marcos. Administratively, the area belongs to 2 Veredas districts, Sinan and Makakel, where Senyin is. It's about 330 kilometers north of the national capital, Addis Ababa, by road. This highland lies at a latitude of 2,386 meters above sea level. Many of the rivers of the Upper Nile originate from this mountain range, a total of 59 rivers, and many springs are identified in the upper catchments of Choke Mountain. The climate of the Choke Mountain region between February and May is known to be warm. During this period, the average temperature could reach up to 17.80 Celsius, whereas during the coldest months, between June and August, the average monthly temperature reaches 15.60 Celsius. In chapter 2, verse 38 of the Holy Quran, God tells us that there is an order for all of mankind to descend when he states, "We, God, said, descend from it, all of you, and when guidance comes to you from me, God, whoever follows my guidance, there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve." The word "it" here refers to the paradise where Adam and Eve lived before they sinned, when God said to all mankind in the Holy Quran, "Descend from it." That may mean that the paradise where Adam and Eve lived before they sinned was on earth and located at a height above sea level. This nicely fits the characteristics of the mountain of Senyin, now called Choke Mountain in Ethiopia, Africa, and also happens to be the place where humans first evolved. In short, the Holy Quran simply confers the African roots of the human family tree. So long before Darwin even used evolution as a mechanism to explain diversity and the development of species, the Holy Quran itself addressed the emergence, diversification, and origins of life on Earth. Charles Darwin is, of course, best known for his theory of evolution through natural selection. When Darwin's work was first made public in 1859, it shocked Britain's religious establishment. And while today it is accepted by virtually all scientists, evolutionary theory is still rejected by many Americans, often because it conflicts with their religious beliefs about divine creation. But though we may tend to think of Darwin's theory of evolution as anti-religious, you may be surprised to learn that Darwin's theory and the Holy Quran share some commonalities. Let's start by taking a...
Yes. Pay attention, Mr. Best. All this.
La da da da. Whoa, whoa, yeah. The battle getting hotter and hotter. So, whoa, whoa, whoa. Man, you got to know yourself.
Now that is Ethiopia. What you're watching here right now, that's Ethiopia. The Nile River, you know. The Nile, you know that place there that you should have been telling us about? Take us on a tour. Even give us some chocolate. Yeah.
La da da da. Whoa, whoa, yeah. The battle getting hotter and hotter.
Reality.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Man, you got to know yourself. The battle getting hotter and hotter. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Man, you got to know yourself. Know yourself, black man. Know yourself right now. Now is the time, black man, that we must all live as one. When your false prophecy, can't you see reality now? When your false prophecy now, can't you see reality?
It's freedom for the human race. That's what the world needs today.
La da da da, la da da da. Whoa.
Run down the time, man. We are going with. Run the time down.
You are me sister, yeah, we are you brother. God loves us all, ooh, let's love each other. Come, we go reason now. Come, 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 we go reason now. Come, we go walk and talk. Come, we go reason now. No fussing or fighting, we're going forward. We are no warrior, but we are conqueror. Come, we go reason now. Come, we go reason now. No fussing or fighting, we're going forward. We are no warrior, but we are conqueror. Come, we go reason now.
Oh, you mean push it further?
where their voice is not heard. No. Day after day uttereth speech, night after night showeth knowledge. And let me tell you now, I would like to be there. I would like to be, yeah, in this number. It's a peculiar number, kind of people in this number. It's a peculiar number, kind of people. 144,000. These are they that were sealed.
You see, we're crucial, you know. And I really need to blow up with my trumpet. You understand? You know, take these things lightly. So, we came with the embryology, Al-Quran, not some man, some person, I try something, no. We gave you the stardust, water. Maybe tomorrow we'll give you the water splitting. Yeah, splitting on the earth, you know. Two forces that work side by side but do not combine, don't mix. Yeah, I tell you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said he put a screen there. Okay. So we are bringing these revelations distinctively to the world, to all those who watch this program and other programs, because we out there. We're out there. And we out there, we're the Muslim. You understand? Oh, yes. So, we want people to pay attention, seriously. Now, I've not lost my way and say, well, infrastructure now work, so we take a different course. No. Infrastructure will work. It's just that people are stubborn. You know what I mean? Some people are trying to check it out, and some people are say, yo, you know what I mean? When? How long? You know what I mean? And some people are say, well, oh, you can do that in a place that have infrastructure already. But you see, we have people out there talk, say that we have community. We used to have community. We don't have no community. You see, we want community. That means say we want. You know what I mean? We know there's something missing. And it's we have the true potential and capability to deal with that. You understand? We know it's missing. We know it's essential. We know it's very important. You understand? And since we know it's very important, should we not deal with it? You know what I mean? Should we not deal with it? Why we leave it? We're not leaving it because we're not courageous and we pay attention to other people. We pay attention to ourselves. We're very successful. We'll be very, very successful. You understand? Trust me. We'll be very, very successful. Without a shadow of doubt. And it's not that we have to go beg anybody for anything. We'll be extremely successful. So I want to bring this piece here to you now because, come again. Hold this and listen carefully.
Hello and welcome back to For All Humans. Today we'll be talking about racism and slavery, but first we need to start our discussion by defining what it means to be human. Being human is significant as there is a fundamental difference between human beings and animals, and that is in self-reflection. We are the only species on Earth that have the ability to think of our impermanence, our self-worth, and our purpose. We have the ability to contemplate the past and ponder the future, and to actively repress our impulses. Animals can be taught almost anything on a primitive level, but as they say, no chimp can self-reflect. That is to say, it is unable to step outside of itself to see itself from an alternate perspective, or to realize consciously that it is alive, that its heart is beating, that it is walking the planet, that it will die someday, and that the moon is overhead. Islam goes deeper in its distinction between man and animal. The Quran states there are several ways humans are favored above other species, through their creation, their intellect, and their custodianship. Let's examine these in greater detail. The Quran enhances the dignity bestowed upon humans by telling us how we were created. There are two elements mentioned in our conception. One is of the physical, that is dust or clay from earth, and the other is spiritual, that is the divine spirit of God. The physical aspect of us is humbling, what with being out of clay and all, but having the spirit of God in each and every human raises us all in status. As the Quran narrates in chapter 22, verse 5, O people, if you should be in doubt about the resurrection, then consider that indeed we created you from dust, then from a sperm drop, then from a clinging clot, and then from a lump of flesh, formed and unformed, that we may show you. And we settle in the wombs whom we will for a specified term, then we bring you out as a child, and then we develop you, that you may reach your maturity. And in chapter 15, verse 29 it says, And I have proportioned him, Adam, and breathed into him of my soul. Being created by the divine spirit of God elevates one's status, and this favor was not bestowed upon any other creature on earth. The word human itself is mentioned in 39 chapters of the Holy Quran and repeated 58 times. The word beings is mentioned 37 times, and the word people 368 times. Moreover, the Quran dedicates an entire chapter on being human, and it is called, you guessed it, the human. Now what does this all mean? What's so special about being human? The Quran and God, its author, place a central value on being human, and that is the free will we have due to the intellect we were given. We have the ability to choose our actions to either help each other and ourselves, or to hinder our progress. How we choose to act and interact with one another may be seen as a huge responsibility, but it's also one of the biggest blessings we have, and it defines our humanity. This freedom of choice gives us our individuality and our ability to make decisions for ourselves. Unlike animals, we can succumb to our instincts or choose to go against our nature. Humans were given a special honor by being created with a resemblance to one of God's features. That is, we are all given the ability to choose freely. So essentially, we were all born free. And in Islam, that fundamental freedom can't be taken away or restricted in any way. If it is, then in the eyes of God, it is done unlawfully by no wrongdoer or an oppressor. So you see, it is through revelations that God has given us ways to keep intact our inherent dignity and sovereignty, which is a right for all. But what revelations is God talking about? As he mentions in the Quran in chapter 3, verse 34, He has sent down upon you, O Muhammad, the book and truth, confirming what was before it, and He revealed the Torah and the Gospel before as guidance for the people, and He revealed the Quran. And in the Revelations, He also mentions that, as respect for us beings, God has given us the responsibility of being successors of the earth. This is the third favor He placed on humankind and no other creation. The Quran says in chapter 6, verse 165, It is He who has appointed you vicegerent on the earth. Indeed, a Muslim's character and identity is rooted in the concept of being a caretaker, not only to their family and friends, but also to everyone and everything that exists on earth. Imagine having to carry that responsibility with every decision you make. Luckily, a Muslim's attitude and way of thinking comes from a place of love and respect for God. They believe they are elevated in status by being faithful worshippers of their Lord. Worship in this context does not only include praying to God or fasting or performing other religious rituals. For Muslims, worship encompasses all aspects of life and all activities you are bound to engage in on a daily basis to live in this world. It's just about being good and doing good. Through the diligently recorded and preserved history of the actions of Prophet Muhammad, Muslims are able to understand how to live their best life on a daily basis. This includes living in an environmentally friendly way and leading a less wasteful life. It's about respect for animals and preserving the planet. It's about living in a healthy and helpful way and reducing the harm and injustice that already exists. This also extends to money dealings and business transactions, and it includes our interactions and relations with others. In all the affairs we just listed, Muslim believers are required to have a mindset that shows love, consideration, and support. Interactions are to happen in the spirit of fairness, tolerance, brotherhood, and community. With that said, this transcendent version of men in the Quran goes well beyond the physical aspects that make us human and slashes the view that we are merely an advanced type of primate. We are much more than that. We are women and men, brothers and sisters, and our origin is one, that of Adam and Eve. So, we're all born equal, right? As the Quran states in chapter 4, verse 1, O mankind, fear your Lord who created you from one soul and created from its mate and dispersed from both of them many men and women. The only thing that sets us apart from one another is our actions. Islam argues that since we are granted free will, we must bear the burden of our own actions. Unlike the angels who are not given free will or intellect, every individual has to own up to the decisions he or she makes. As the Quran narrates in chapter 2, verse 286, Allah does not charge a soul except with that within its capacity. It will have the consequence of what good it has gained, and it will bear the consequence of what evil it has earned. That is the heavy price to pay for our consciousness. And the successful among us, according to the Quran, they are the ones who enjoin good and forbid what is evil or harmful. Earlier, we touched upon fairness in trade and transactions as a part of worship for Muslims. With all the differences and diversity amongst us, the thing that truly makes us the same and really unites us to one cause is trade. There is an economic theory that states the notion of trade is that of comparative advantage, which means that each party is driven by the need of the other, and therefore an economic relationship is established on that basis. In simpler terms, the economy is run on a vast system of supply and demand. You can't have one without the other, and there's no room for vice there without risking a monetary loss. We overcome our differences to be active and viable in our economy, taking advantage of the comparative advantage as it were, yet we scrap this model when it comes to dealing with people on a personal level. A white Uber driver and a brown passenger will have no qualms with one another, but neighbors of different races may quarrel and bicker due to their cultural differences. Why is that? Why can't we unite on a personal level as we do on an economic level? Now let's talk about Islam's views on the creation of humanity. The first truth about the creation of humanity is that all of us belong to God. We must appreciate the beauty of diversity, as the reason for our differences is to get to know one another. God did not create us to mock one another, but so that our knowledge may grow in the getting to know each culture. This can bring different perspectives to the table, but only if we are willing to accept them at that table. Thanks to diversity, we are exposed to different ways of life and experiences, and can learn from and be inspired by them. As the Quran relates, O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Indeed, Allah is all-knowing and acquainted. The Prophet expanded on this point, saying, O people, verily your Lord is one, and your father Adam is one. Verily, there is no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab, or of a non-Arab over an Arab, or of a white man over a black man, or of a black man over a white man, except in terms of righteousness. Have I conveyed the message? They said, the messenger of God has conveyed the message. With Quranic verses and sayings of the Prophet as clear as these, there is no room for misinterpretation. Islam believes that everyone is born equal. Only our actions can set us apart. God created differences in each of us, and it is for us to get to know each other, not to impose power onto each other or to engage in conflict. The second truth about the creation of humanity is that we all have one origin and therefore should be socially harmonious. Let me explain. As we previously mentioned in the Quran, God tells us, Fear your Lord who created you from one soul and created from it its mate and dispersed from both of them many men and women. The Quran continues to ask us to be careful in our relationships with each other, as God is ever watching. So you see in Islam and in Christianity and Judaism as well, the lineage of humans is tied to one original set of parents, and from the original parents came out children of different races in the early generations, which means we are all one big family, even if we aren't the most functional one at the moment. We are created from one soul, one set of parents, and are all linked. A small example of this can be seen during the time of the Prophet, when there was a Persian companion of Muhammad named Salman al-Farsi. The Prophet said of him, Salman is one of the people of the house of the Prophet. It didn't matter that Salman wasn't of the same race as the Prophet, he was still considered family to Muhammad. With this truth about our one source of origin, racism is not compatible with being human. We are united by one mother and one father, no matter the color of our skin. This brings us to the third truth about the creation of humanity. The people who are most beloved to God are the ones who are most beneficial to people. That's right, folks, it isn't skin deep after all. The messenger of God was asked, which of the people are most beloved to God? He replied, those who are the most beneficial to people. So I'll leave you this thought. Islam doesn't pay much attention to how you look or where you come from. In truth, we come from the same origin, even if we look different. What matters is what we do and how we treat each other. As the Prophet says, O people, verily God has taken away from you the arrogance of ignorance and its pride and forefather. People are of two types, righteous and pious, who are dear to God, and doomed evildoers, who are insignificant before God. People are the descendants of Adam, and God created Adam from dust. So if you want to elevate your rank, all you have to do is be a good person. If you liked what you saw, please remember to like, comment, share, and let us know what you think in the comment section below. See you all next.
Yes, so there we go. You understand? We're continuing time after time, week after week. So I make you hear, make you all hear this song. Listen good, listen keenly, listen carefully. At that we want a lot of understanding. You see? Okay. In the whole wide world, you know, African love.
Give thanks and praise to the Most High. We're gonna give a thanks and praise unto Jah every day. Gonna give a thanks and praise. You love Him every day. And then you thank Him for the food you eat. He even guide you when you sleep. Many times stuffed up all from weep. Oh, Jah searches for His lost sheep. He is my guiding light that shines right through the night. So let's exalt His name. I know it won't be in vain. I give a thanks and praise unto Jah every day. Gonna give a thanks, you're gonna give praise. You love Him all the way. I'm gonna tell you in the times of trouble, when Babylon make me a struggle with their inhuman behavior. Oh, Jah is always my savior. Give a thanks and praise. Every day, gonna give a thanks.
Seeing as so we grow. Come.
No speech, no language, where the voice is not heard. Yes, there is no speech, no language, where the voice is not heard.
Listen.
They can talk, but they can't show no blows. higher the monkey climb, it is the more we will expose. So I said no, 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 no speech, no language where the voice is not heard. Not heard, not heard. I said there's no speech, no language where the voice is not heard. Not heard, not heard. They all fight against me without a cause, but I will never.
See, so we know, say, we there, you know. We there. Come again. Yo, we don't want to do that so quick, you know. Hold this. Special request to the wide, wide world, especially here in England. Hold this. Yeah. Yo, pull that back, man. Come again. Come. Yeah. Guidance. Listen, everybody. Listen good. Oh.
How does it feel when you sell your brethren's out for 30 pieces of silver?
Yo, Shaka, where they?
Judas, you betrayed your brethren. My father used to tell us that.
Come again, Shaka. More life. Come again, Shaka. Yeah. One from the mighty Yabby, 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 yo. How
does it feel when you sell your brethren's out for 30 pieces of silver? Judas, you betrayed your brethren. My father used to tell us, Judas.
Hey, every parable to listen to, you know. Hear my father. Yo! Oh, Yabby, yo! Vivian Jackson. The courtesy of Release Press.
How does it feel when you sell your brethren's out?
Listen, Africans.
For 30 pieces of silver.
Big up.
Judas, you betrayed your brethren.
First time round.
My father used to tell us, Judas dreadlock. That man used to carry the money bag.
Teach them.
Then one day he went to the Romans and he sold out Jesus Christ for 30 pieces of silver. Then he went and gave the money back, and they used it to buy his burial ground. Judas went on himself, and his belly gashed out to the ground.
People.
Judas, Judas, Judas. My father used to tell us, say, Judas dreadlocks. That man used to carry the money bag. Then one day he went to the Romans and he sold out Jesus Christ for 30 pieces of silver.
See me, I tell you no? Yeah, because we read it. You understand? We read it, man. They go to the Romans there and everything, and this one has the British and the Americans and everything. And nothing changed, you know. Nothing has changed, man. People still are going and do the same thing. And I try to make people believe, say, them not bad. They're terrible, wicked, anything for money. Shaka. See, we were jumping victoriously, and then all of a sudden, the police and the soldier take over the place. You see? Oh, okay. And then do what? Huh? Take the place right back to the colonial past. Yeah. Let's get together. Just like that.
Come on and gather around me, children. Let's get together and sing this song. You've got to settle down, children. Let's all join in and sing this song. Sing it, sing it. Boom, shaka, laka, laka. Boom, boom, boom. 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 Hey! Wanna take the time to thank the Lord. Thank Him for the soul deep in my heart. Thank Him for the grass that grows on the land. Even the birds, sweet song. It's a sweet song. Get it together. Can you dig it? Boom, shaka, laka, laka, boom, boom, boom. Boom, shaka, laka, laka, boom, boom, boom. Hey!
You see we get anyway, guidance gone.
There comes a time in life when every man got to find his own land. Cause this was written by the master, by the master. But while the heathen reign, trying to keep my and I down, that now oh Jah we can't get away, can't get away. So I've got to live very well. I'm living, oh yeah, very well. I'm living. Forward I go, onward I bound, no more turning back. I said I've got to leave this place. Oh yeah, every sound of the drum you hear, it's an African beat. Every sound of the drum you hear, it's an African beat. I'm leaving. No more turning back. I say very well. I'm leaving. Oh yeah. Forward I go, onward I bound, no more turning back. Forward I go. I said I've got to leave this place.
Yo, we have a contract. All this, we can't leave without doing this. Come, guidance. All it.
Trouble in my way, so I walk round. Yes, trouble in my way, so I walk round. No matter how things go, they say stick to the straight and narrow. 'Cause though it glitters like gold, it can change on you tomorrow. So much frustrations bottled up inside. I'm like a time bomb running out of time. If I do what I have in mind, there'll be no place to hide. Oh no. If I do what I have in mind, there'll be no place to hide. Trouble in my way, so I walk round. I see it and I know it. Trouble in my way, so I walk round. Trouble in my way, so I walk round. Trouble. It's a small thing, not a big thing. Oh yeah. It's a small thing and not a big thing. Oh yeah. Yes, it's no big thing. Yes, it's no big thing. It's just how the people say. What? Everything is everything. Yes, it's no big thing. Yes, it's no big thing. It's just how the people say. Everything is everything. Every day I get up. It's a small thing, not a big thing. Oh yeah. It's a small thing and not a big thing. Oh yeah. Yes, it's no big thing. Yes, it's no big thing. It's just how the people say. What? Everything is everything. Yes, it's no big thing. Yes, it's no big thing. It's just how the people say. Everything is everything. to defeat Rastafari, but Selassie I Trinity will never die. So we won't listen to the lies that they bring. The other half has never been told, so let them play their role. Soon they will see who is the Almighty King. Just a little bit further before the coming of the Father. Brimstone and fire, the battle will get hotter. Hey, just a little bit further before the coming of the Master. Brimstone and fire, the battle will get hotter. Hey, you've got to rely on providence. It will be your evidence. So stop your false pretense and try to walk the road. Yes, those fools who dare to despise will be the same to realize that they will be the ones who's going to bear the load just a little bit further before the coming of the Father. Brimstone and fire, the battle will get, say just a little bit further before the coming of the Master. Brimstone and fire, the battle will get hotter. Hey, you better beware, you better beware, you better beware. Trying to defeat Rastafari, but Selassie I Trinity will never die. So we won't listen to the lies that they bring. The other half has never been told,